Well, hello everyone. As I'm getting my screen ready and a few things, I hopped on, I think 1 minute early just to set up. And welcome to another Create with Me. This week, we are going a little deeper into shape, and I've got a couple of demonstrations for you. So I hope you're all set. Let me know in the chat if anyone was creating with shapes or you had a very good takeaway from last week's starting with simple shapes, create with me, and if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay. Say hello, everyone. Oh, hi, Marjorie. Nice to see you here again. It's so great. And I hope everyone, I know there was a few of you who may have had signed up, got an email, and didn't get the email for the topic, the new resources, which is now building. I think there's at least 4 now. And I know last week I didn't send a reminder email the day of, Tuesday morning, with the link. I sent it the night before. Let me know in the comments. Do you need one the morning of the Tuesday, or would you like to have the link on Monday evening with that email letting you know what the topic is? Okay. Nice to see everyone. Send it both times? Okay, I will. I'm getting into my routine where I know what I want to do Sunday. So, and I don't want to send the email 2 days before because you know how it gets lost in the sea of emails. So I will still send it the Monday evening with the link and another one Tuesday morning with the link. Thank you, Diana. Okay, so today we're going to go a little bit deeper. But before we do that, I wanted to remind us about last week's. It's because I'm going to be showing you the color palette that we used, and we're going to go a lot calmer into muted tones this week. As you can see, my palette on the side, I just love exploring before the lives and getting everything, not knowing what I'm going to do, mind you, but selecting with intention what feels right for this particular page, or in this case, art session, which is muted tones, but going deeper with shape. So we're just going to use that and keep our palette very simple because it allows you to focus on 1 or 2 elements of art, not having so many where it just gets overwhelming. Things happen when you're in that intuitive mode. And then when you spin back out, when you look at what you've done, it's hard to decipher what's working, what feels good, because there's so many things going on. So the best way, and it's an old saying, keep it simple. Okay. So last time we started with simple shapes. Today we're going to see what happens when we repeat, layer, combine shapes, and of course other layers of maybe line or mark, seeing what happens. And Definitely, we want our pages to feel alive, to feel intuitive. We don't want them looking planned. And that's the genius or the wonderful aspect of intuitive art, and especially in your intuitive art practice. So I'm just going to use my favorite craft brush or my scratchy brush. I'm going to demonstrate with the same shapes with a sponge and see what else happens around here. I might even find one of my thin brushes. This one, now it's even starting to warp. Bad habits sometimes when we forget about our brushes in the water. And that's why I only put the water up so high, but still have to remember. So anyway, I'm going to show you in this demonstration how you can choose any shape. It can be geometric, it can be organic. This time it's going to be organic, and through repetition and changing just a simple difference, the size. So I'm going to be using my Liquitex Basics Fluid, which are really good for these and art journaling, with my scratchy brush. Now, a little too much paint. This method is more of a dry brush. So I'm just going to rub some off. All right. I hope everybody had a wonderful week. We have some nice fall weather, and it's almost like, oh, that was fast. Fall's moving along quickly. So I don't want it to go too fast into that other season. So let's move this. What I'm going to do though is which I forgot to put a page underneath, because I don't want this paint on it when we move over to the journal. So maybe, I know what I'll do. I'll just use the page underneath. So you can go off the page, which is cropping. You can go small. Now I'm turning it. This is a different way, which is so great. Anything that you can do that's different from your usual routine and discover something interesting, that's a good thing. Sometimes you may even want to just jot down on the page if you save particular journal pages, not journal pages, collage pages is what we're using. And I usually practice on very inexpensive paper. This is just copy paper. Even newsprint is good. And notice it's on an angle. These are more random because I turn the page. So that will dry. And I'm going to be saving this piece for a collage when we get into the jelly plate printing session. So if anyone's looking forward to that, just put in jelly printing in the comments, because that's coming up very soon. So I'm just going to put this here so we can compare. Now, say if I wanted a more consistent energy, so I'm just going to keep them the same. I want to alternate, but I don't want to get my table all paint. So that's what's stopping my usual. And we're going to look at the difference. Even though the marks are the same, they show a different type of energy. And that's what we're talking about. So notice how this is sort of out of step because of that other direction and different size. And then you get more of a consistent pattern, like a drum beat. Okay? Now I'm going to use, I'll just put that to the side, the, uh-oh, where'd it go? There it is. I'm going to use the same. So still scratchy, but a little smoother, more clear. The shape is more distinct. And when you're working small like this, which isn't really that small at all, sometimes you don't even have to fill the entire page. If you're working in small, on small art journaling pages, you might only need to fill a half of a copy page. Now, since I flipped it, we're going to go the other way. It's a bit of a spatial exercise. If anyone's spatially challenged, sometimes. Okay. And those are just simple sort of ovals, but these look more 3D. They have an interesting feel about them. These will become collage papers. So they're going to get at least 2 or 3 more layers on them in our next coming session. So let's do something even simpler. So changing pressure. I know I did this during our first mark making, but we always come back to this because we use our marks like handwriting, like our signature. And some people, you might really like the sponge. I'm not really too keen on it. It's okay. I didn't mind it in those ovals, but it's not my favorite go-to tool. I like more of a brush, something that'll bend and really react to your hand. So your hand is really now this is going fast with our mark making. This is almost like the letter O in cursive writing. In your mark making, now I'm going to do another page and we'll finish up this demonstration. Now I want to go slower, more methodic, and really get into maybe a different shape. These were not planned ahead of time. I'm just going for it. So something's telling me that this shape is really organic. And then I have a little water on the brush so it moves, flows better, more random. And something's guiding me to go, okay, let's change the size. So still the same kind of action, circular, but look at all of the nuances in the brush stroke here. And it's just so simple, but there's so much going on. Okay. So that's one demonstration that you can practice, that shows you how you can practice. Let's do one more with a little thin brush. Sorry. And I'm going to use Payne's Gray instead of black. That's where you can really vary. Now I'm going to really load it and add a little more water. Whoops, we're splashing already. There's something about these when they're on a slant. And I really love blue, Payne's Gray, indigo. You could do this with ink. You could make your marks using water-based inks and just using the dabber as the tool. Why don't I demonstrate that? So it's just so simple. Whatever your hand feels like doing, you can change your ink colors, all sorts of things. I'm going to move to an art journaling page. But first, let's look at last week's. So this is last week's, where we started with a simple shape. We started with that orange one that's way underneath here. And we used, or I used, collage papers, torn, more of a rectilinear sort of shapes, rectangles, long, wide, and had a real fun time doing it. And the energy is so different. It's very strong, bold, energetic. And what I wrote down was, use many transparent layers overlapping, because if once I go into this journal, see, this doesn't have anything. It's like, oh, what did I do? What really worked in this one? It's very important that you write at least a couple of little lines of something. But now I want to see what happens with muted tones. And that's today's lesson. So I went ahead and made some muted tones. I used just a few colors, 3 colors, black and white, actually 4, because we have turquoise blue, they're all Liquitex fluid, Payne's gray, Mars black, yellow oxide, unbleached titanium, and white. And then as you can see, this whole thing is just because I don't find that if I do a grid that's this perfect, add a little white, add a little, I don't create that way. And I don't think any of you create that way. So it has to be more of an intuitive approach to your color exploration and really keeping it simple. So in these that go down, because I remember at least the direction, I added a little more unbleached titanium. And oh, the muted tones are beautiful. This one here that's so much brighter, I just added white. So it maintains the strength of the color, the hue, but then just lightens the value. And then of course added white to the yellow oxide, turquoise and Payne's gray with titanium, unbleached titanium, Payne's gray and black. You get a beautiful subtle gray, and of course the more white you add, the lovelier it'll be. This is Payne's gray and yellow oxide, really earthy. And you can just sort of do a whole play, but remember to write your colors, what went with what, just generally. You don't have to do everything, but don't forget, everybody's different. So I thought I would also select, which is a good idea, collage papers that are the same, of the same palette and muted tones. So we have a piece of palette paper here with the same turquoise and unbleached, the turquoise, Payne's gray, very muted blue, nothing really strong, neutrals. These are some of the shapes we're going to explore. The bridge shape that someone mentioned last week. It was one of your favorite shapes, which is so cool. So I made just out of a card, the note or anything stiff. Cardstock would work. I use my hole punch, or you can just draw one, which I think would look better and more organic. But today I was just doing it quickly, so we'll use that. We're going to use the negative space around it, though. So we're going to get into a little bit of negative space once I start choosing and putting things down. I wanted to demonstrate how to use a torn edge as part of the side of a shape. So we've got the positive, negative, and you can see all of my selection, which is a very tight palette, the same as the color palette here. So I'm just going to start activating with pencil, and probably this time some, oh, maybe not. Oh, I think I'll use water-soluble graphite. And I'm just going to make a few lines. My intention today is to explore shapes and finding new shapes in the negative space with muted tones using paint and collage. That's it. Okay? Whatever happens, happens. Who knows? When you're selecting, it is a good idea to have a light, a medium, and a dark value. So you're spreading those things around. I've got plus transparent, which we will get into. So just to mention, so great that everybody's here. Nice to hear and see you. I know it's a small group today, but you know what? That's okay. You know, this is such great practice for me, and I enjoy teaching. I just love teaching. The best part that I love to teach, though, is not elementary school. It's art. It's what I do. It's my love. It is my passion. So I have something coming out in the fall. Most likely later fall, not super late fall. And what I do takes us far deeper into materials, concepts, and all sorts of things. I call it working from the inside out. So I hope you're excited, and I cannot wait to get it out there. So where to start? Say if you're standing here like I am, I know where I could start. I have so many possibilities. I just grab and go. But back in the day, I didn't know where to start. So last week, we started with a big shape. But I don't like putting it on just something blank, empty. So we'll do the same thing again, but we're going to build focusing on the edges and maybe have different shapes with different shapes. That's what deeper with the shapes is all about. So let's stop talking and get creating, right? I'm remembering my students, because the whole thing was make sure they know what you're talking about, make sure they know. It's like, okay, well, we can really overdo that. I'm loving this just random. See, this tool makes my hand do this. With this tool, I do something different. So keep an eye on that. Just, you just have to keep an eye on what you react with, feel with. And these, when they're in the very background, I mean underneath 4 or 5 layers of either paint or collage, look really cool. So I'm going to demonstrate what adding a little water will do. Already we have some nice muted tones, soft, That's what I'm feeling today. And once you have that done, I'm not going to do the whole thing, just sort of one side. I'm going to lift off any excess water, moisture. Oops. Okay. And we're going to start with a big shape. So last week we started with an orange shape. Here's that piece. And I decided to cut it with a slight curve. So who knows what's going to happen. I think I want to start. No, I don't. Maybe. Okay, it's almost too big, so I'm going to tear it. I love how old pages tear. Right here. So I like to use heavy gel. It's a gloss, but it does come in matte. So I'm thinking I should try that and compare differences with that glossy feel. This piece of multi-layered collage paper, which is still very, very calm, very neutral, was coated with one thin layer of gloss medium. And I've been doing that with a lot of my collage papers with many layers on them. So here's a nice big neutral shape, and I've torn it already, and that's okay. Okay. Okay, now, let's see. So you're just sort of building upon and overlapping. Time goes so fast during these sessions. Now, so far, all that line is being covered up. But if you want it to show again, you can always bring that back in another layer. Nothing is in stone during this process, and that's another great thing. Okay, so now I think I'm going to use my color shaper, and I want to keep in thought with the muted tones. Oops. When I'm working, and if I wanted to do that, I would have it out like this and just keep an eye on just some ideas. But today, since I don't want that covering everything, but you could do that on your own. And I would do the same off camera. So this is yellow oxide, unbleached titanium, and white, titanium white. And I'm going to spritz, because I want this very thin. So another shape. Well, I'm just going to come in with so I want those marks to be seen underneath. So I'm lifting some of that off with the shaper. And notice the lines smudge, but they stay mostly intact. Now I'm going to show you something with this shape. bringing in another one. Too soon for this. I want to wait and do some more. Let's see. We'll do that later. Another thing, once you start layering, you'll find out different types of layers work, say, the early layering or the middle layering or a late layering. Say more detail is better on the top layers versus the beginning under layers, which is very play and you're just starting to establish texture, a feeling, and all of that kind of thing. I'm putting down some darker marks. These are the first things that came to mind, most likely because I remembered this Sunday's video. If you didn't see it, I made a shape with these marks, just sort of letting the boundary be very organic. And you don't want paint on your marker. Okay, and why that is that I wanted to be able to see okay, I'm liking that. The marks underneath, which creates depth and interest and subtlety and overlapping. Okay, that one's very subtle. I really like it. So then we're going to come on top with more shapes with a darker, most likely black. And I'm looking forward to how that'll look. So let's try just some random just using this edge, making something, so it'll be sharp but torn, and I want the other edge to be soft. And then you can change direction or repeat it. And I think I'll go a little darker this time and not all the way across. I want to stop at this line. So you're using the same technique, the same stencil, but in a different way. See how they're sort of floating on top, and now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers going on. So I want an earthier, but not a dark, but more of a medium. And let's just see what happens. So isn't that interesting? So you have the positive, negative going on. You have this underneath with the positive, the negative, and it's just all sort of altering. Plus, if I paint that nicely, you get a really nice piece of collage to use. I like it down here as a reflection. I think I'll do that. Didn't plan it. That's what I love about this intuitive process. Notice it's building, but I don't want to have it go too busy. I just love that in there. Wow. See, notice I just want that filled in a bit more. There. Cool. Okay. So that was a torn edge. And this is like a card. You can use anything a little stiffer. And then once you build up lots of paint, you'll have a really nice stencil. But it's natural. Okay. Let's see. Down here. Now it's still damp. This is what I like to do too. Bring the pencil through, come over some shapes again. A little more contrast is needed, but with what? And see how I hold? So here's the arch again, which is so neat. Covering. I don't think so. Let's put some more text in here. Nothing too big. Notice when I block that out or keep it, it finishes the form, but then here this runs into it and there's more of a flow. I could line up that line. I think I'll do that. Ooh. That's even better. You never know which side of the old text you might end up using. And here's where words, like our marks, like signatures, have energy, have power. Everything has meaning. You can use it or ignore it. So we need some blue in here, maybe, but as long as it's muted. So that, I refer that if it's just one little peak of a color, it's sort of like the hero color. So, but maybe it will just be neutral today. Oh, those are cool. Okay, so as you can see, there's a bit of a shine on this page. So they're very textured dots. They're made with a line applicator. And I'm just going to do this. Notice one piece is larger than the other. I like that, because I want that to show still. Okay. This area is very interesting, but I don't want it. I want to keep it very light in value. So let's try, yes, one of these. So just a, so this shape, I think I'll cover that. Okay, time is flying. All right, so we'll just finish up with this. I'll leave a little piece peeking. And now, say this is dry. You've looked at it. It's very interesting. And you might even want to add a glaze. Well, you might want to just use a very subtle glaze and some more line and keep the tone very similar. This is where the water-soluble or even a light wash can come in. And maybe blue in paint, it would be too much right now. But just here. If you don't like it, you can add a little ochre, and that even looks better. Okay. So since circle seems to be, or arch, say if it needs some more contrast. Well, what kind of contrast are we referring to? I'm liking how this is going to change the shape. But notice how it overpowers the whole thing. So maybe just a small piece for contrast. Okay. And then maybe no, see too many circles happening up there. I love the subtlety of this one. Nope, doesn't go. Okay, so let's just use some solid, an old cork. That might be too much, but let's just give it a try. What if, since it's darker down here, I'm going to go horizontally and keep the lighter up top. Okay. So say if you ended up doing that, it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty powerful. But I don't quite like it. Well, what I usually do is, of course, I won't do that today, is let it dry, and then you can come over it again with another, maybe a lighter tone. We just sort of just using maybe your finger. I've done that in many of my, See, it just lessens the contrast just enough. While adding some texture, which is sort of cool. There. Okay. Well, I'm going to let that sit for now, and let's go over what we learned today. So we learned today that you can, starting from last week, you can just start with a simple shape or with line. Just start and notice how things progress. Once you had something, then you responded to that mark, that color, or that collage. And that you can, depending on the energy of your marks, use this very similar ones, your favorite ones, and then save those for more layering. I still seem to like this one, that I use the sponge that I don't usually go to, but this is really cool. And then we have negative space using resist, torn edges, any kind of shape. Save your little pieces for negative. Let's just do this. I just wanted to at least do one just to show you. And I don't know if I'll like it, but let's put it right there. Just one even. Now, I don't know if actually it's sort of cool right there. But singular, I might let it dry and then go over it. And then if you don't like it, you can just cover it with another piece of collage with a similar value of the surrounding area so that you're not interfering with the composition. This composition is mostly sort of an all-over composition. And notice I left the edges nice and clean and quiet while the page has lots going on, but it's not overwhelming. So I hope you enjoyed this little going deeper with shape. And you know, I just love this at the end. There. And I hope you carry on and take what you've learned today and experiment with your particular shapes in many different ways. And notice the materials are so simple. So if you haven't already, sign up for my Create With Me. The link is in the description below this video. And stay tuned because I do have something coming out in the fall. The wait list will be coming very soon. And in the meantime, sign up for my letters from the studio, keeps you in the loop, and let's keep creating together. Don't forget about my vlog every Sunday at 11. And keep on creating. Follow and learn to trust your intuition in this extremely awesome, intuitive art process. And I will see you next Tuesday at 2.